Welcome to Tech Talent Today, where IT leaders share their tough challenges, creative solutions, and latest insights. You'll discover fresh ideas and inspiration here with your host, ITStaffing veteran and president of Claremont Technologies, Jody Kulik-Mayer. And now, here's Jody.
Today, we're joined by Pasquale Cirullo, Vice President of a leading manufacturing company and veteran in technology and business leadership. With over 20 years of experience, Pasquale has led teams across industries like manufacturing, real estate, nonprofits, advertising, and publishing. He's an expert in leveraging technology for business improvement. Beyond his professional role, Pasquale is active in the IT community. He serves on the executive committee of the New Jersey chapter of the Society for Information Management, most recently as president, and on Pace University's Cybersecurity Advisory Board. He's also served as a mentor in the Executive Master of Science and Technology Management program at Columbia University. Pasquale holds a BS in Chemical Engineering from Columbia University and an MS in Information Systems from Pace University. We're excited to have Pasquale here to share his insights. Welcome, Pasquale. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
It's interesting in getting to know you. I noticed that you often end up in leadership roles, like not only in your company where you're vice president of IT, but in other areas of your life. Like you mentioned, you were a scoutmaster in the Boy Scouts when your son was growing up, and for the New Jersey chapter of the Society for Information Management, you recently served as president. So, like, how does that happen? How do you always end up in a leadership role?
You know, it comes out from needing to be involved. Well, not needing to be involved, wanting to be involved. Also, one person once told me, you're either part of the solution or part of the problem. So do you want to be part of the problem or part of the solution? Which is, okay, I'd rather be part of the solution. And I think also, even going back to college, it was just getting involved in something and then somebody seeing something in me that said, hey, we want you to do this, and pushing me on into a leadership role is the way it became. And I think that's been pretty much what it's been like for most of my leadership career, shall we call it, in that I get involved, somebody sees something in me and moves me into a leadership, pushes me into a leadership role. And then, once I'm there, it's just, I just seem to grow and grow and grow in it.
Right. Now, was this also what you were like growing up, like in leadership roles in school, or is that something as you became an adult?
No, not so much in school. I mean, when I was in high school, it was the typical things. You join, you involved in athletics, involved in academics. Maybe there was time for one of two groups in there. It really started more, and I was involved in Boy Scouts when I was a youth. But I think it more or less started in college, in that I was a commuter. I didn't live on campus at Columbia University. So I joined what they had was a commuter club, which was an opportunity to kind of make the resident experience for the non-residents. And the club advisor there, who happened to be the dean of the school, just saw something and started pushing me into leadership roles around, the school and, other organizations on campus. And I guess it started from there.
Right. Now, did the school suggest the commuter club to you, or how did you find it? Were you looking for something?
It was I wanted something because there was two other people from my high school that went to Columbia University. But the school is just so large, and our schedules are so different. We never had a chance to connect on campus. And I wanted something that I could meet other people on campus and form those friendships and so on. And the community, and during freshman orientation, they were outlining all the different clubs that they had on campus and the different things that you could join. And it was one of the ones that just perfectly made sense to join.
Right. No, that's great. And what had you join the Society for Information Management? Like, what prompted that?
Uh, what prompted it was doing the RLF program. I had heard of this regional leadership forum that they were running. That sounded very interesting. And then my boss at the time was a member of the Cleveland chapter. And he told me it was a really good organization. The program was really good. He recommended me for the program. Doing the program, you get a free year of membership to any chapter. Obviously the chapter closest to you.
That makes sense.
So I took that 1 year, and I just found it turned out that in that 1 year, I had a really great experience with the organization. Just this opportunity to meet other IT leaders, and learning from them, and them really interested in my opinion on different technologies and things of that sort, that I just kept renewing. And 20 years later, I'm still a member.
Right. And you were the president last year?
Yes, I was president of the New Jersey chapter.
Right.
Ended in July 1st of this year. My term ended.
Did that happen in a sort of similar way where someone pushed you to be the president, or
Well, no,
thought,
not pushed me.
yeah.
I got involved early on with SIM. When I initially joined, I was a member of the New York chapter. And one of the people there, one of my first meetings, just came up to me and said, "Hey, you know what? Welcome to the chapter. Why don't you help us out registering people? Because you'll meet everybody that comes in and they'll meet you. It's a great way to meet people." So I did it. And that led to another thing and another position for several years. Then when I transferred to the New Jersey chapter, same thing. I just started. Some of the people I already knew because of the cross New York, New Jersey meetings that we had. So it was just got involved, and it was just like, okay, you know what? Let me join a committee to help out. And then one thing led to another, and I got onto the EC, and then they kept just every year it was just like, hey, how would you like to do this? How would you like to be EVP? Sure. What's involved? And then it was like, okay, well, now you get to be president. So it was like, and that's how it come. I got to that. It was fun and interesting. And I'm still involved. I mean, even though I'm no longer the president, I'm still involved as the national rep. So I liaison with the national organization, but it's also just being involved in helping out wherever I can, because the organization, it's the people who volunteer are the ones that make it. And it's just helping everyone out wherever I can to, make the organization a better organization and a stronger organization.
Right. And as the president, like, what sort of influence do you have? What do you decide? Do you decide on the programs? How does that work?
You don't. It's not so much deciding. It's more or less setting the direction that you want for the year, and what are the things you think you should be concentrated on for the particular year that you're there, and trying to influence your various committee members and executive committee to help you reach those goals. I mean, it really is more of a, it's really is more of an influence type of role. You're trying to influence people to do the things you want them to do, which is very similar to IT in general, or at least with my leadership style of it fits perfectly.
One thing that I was very interested in that you said to me is one of the most impactful leadership courses you ever taken was their leadership course. Like,
Correct.
yeah, share your experience with that and why it was so meaningful.
It is a 8-month program. It's about 20 people per location. You get together for 2 days once every 5-6 weeks. And in the meantime, in those 5-6 weeks, you're reading a total, over the course of the whole program, it's a total of 30 different books.
Wow.
And it really teaches you about you, and helps you figure out who you are, what your leadership style is, and what's important to you. And and that's what it was. I mean, it was you're reading all this, spending all this time reading these books, which a lot of them were like really phenomenal books. Uh, and none of it is about the technology. I think at very early on in our first or second session, everyone had to do a presentation of your company, just so that we got a sense of who all these companies are. And in part of that, you're talking about the technology. That was it. For the rest of the time, it wasn't about technology, but it was about you figuring out who you are and what leadership means to you, and
Wow.
how to improve your leadership.
So, out of those 30 books you read, which ones were the most impactful to you?
It's funny because when I was getting ready for this, I looked at my bookcase and I've got some that are still there from 20 years ago. Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl was one of the really interesting books. Finding Your North Star. The Abilene Paradox, which I've actually reread about a year ago. I think it's about that. And Crucial Conversations, about how to have difficult conversations, and difficult conversations you're going to have if you're a leader at some point in your career. Execution by Larry Bossidy, who was CEO of, I think he was at one point worked for GE under Jack Welch, and then went on to be CEO of a different company. And it was just a really book on executing on ideas and programs, and leading execution. Those were some of them. Leading Quietly was another one.
Now, do you feel like these were all timeless, or did some not age well as things change?
Some of the books that we read didn't age so well, but I think these books really hit the mark, and really was something that they must have meant something to me, because they're still sitting in my library. And I tend to go through my library every couple of years and just weed out books that I don't think are worth having anymore. And these have all stuck around.
And are you reading anything right now?
Just finished reading Start With Why by Simon Sinek. Really good book, because he really goes through the whole concept behind the book is that You're not going to get people to follow you if you don't give them the why behind what you're trying to do and why you want to do it. And he gives, one example he gives is Steve Jobs. And Steve Jobs' why for Apple wasn't to create an iPhone. It was to change the way people think and work and do things. And that's what he sold. And that was his why for his company. And he gives a couple of other examples. So I thought that was really interesting book and
That
really
does
enjoyed it.
that does sound interesting, and I think even for yourself, knowing your own why.
Yeah, exactly. And it fit in. It's interesting because when you think about it, it does fit in with the the RLF books that we read. Is what's your why? What's the whole purpose of and understanding why you want what you want.
R- Right. And just the RLF is the leadership course.
Yeah,
Just,
exactly.
yeah. Just,
Yeah.
I know IT people love acronyms. So,
Yes.
Yeah.
RLF stands for Regional Leadership Forum.
right.
Yeah,
And
we love acronyms.
yes. Is it still called that?
I know they've recently changed the name to Rising Leadership Forum.
Right.
SIM, when I started there, had basically that was their only leadership program. They now have expanded it to be 3 different leadership programs. There's emerging leaders, mainly meant for uh, people on your staff that you think have leadership potential and to start them on that road. Then there's the regional leadership forum for the people on your staff that are leaders and you think can take that top position whether at your company or a different organization. And then there's another one that's the executive leadership, which is for the CIOs.
That's it. That
Yep.
sounds fantastic. I'll put the link to SIM in the show notes. So if people want to check it out, they can check
Yeah,
it
definitely.
out. Yeah. So did you also read books on interviewing or anything like that in the hiring vein?
No.
No. So have you developed a philosophy on interviewing? Like, how do you approach building your team?
I think my philosophy on interviewing has grown over the years. I mean, initially when I first had to do my first interviews for people, HR put me through a 1-2 hour primer on interviewing and the things you should do. And that has evolved over the years into the way I interview now, which is changes on the role that I'm looking to fill. Whether it's a contributor role where technology is very important, or a leadership role where I think cultural fit is more important. But I think in all positions, for all employees, I think cultural fit it has to be a part of the interview process. Because you have to figure out whether the person can fit in the organization and whether they have the ability to adapt to fit into the organization. Technology can be taught. I can send you off to a training course to learn the technology. You can take courses online, watch videos to learn the technology, but you can't learn a cultural fit. And the other thing I look at is how can I form a relationship with this person? If they're going to be reporting to me, whether they are the support person who's helping people have computer problems, or whether it's a director of IT who I'm looking to lead other people, I have to have a relationship with that person and I have to be able to trust them. Uh, I am I'm not a micromanager. I don't want to look over your shoulder and tell you everything you need to do. I need to trust that that I can tell you what I want done. Uh, expect that you're going to ask questions to make sure you fully understand what I'm going at. Uh, have that conversation with me because I don't know everything. So sometimes I might say I want you to go do X, and it might be the absolute wrong thing to do. Uh, so I expect the people, I want the people to push back on me and say, no, that's not what you want to, that's not the way we should do it. And we can have that conversation about whether it is or whether it isn't. And, and then look, in some cases I've changed my mind. In some cases I haven't changed my mind, which is fine. It's sometimes you do have to change your mind because you're given information that you didn't know beforehand, and it's great. So I want to know that information that they may have that I may not have. But then I need to trust them to go forward and with what we've agreed to do. Uh, Without me looking over their shoulder and telling them every single step that they have to do. That's just not the way I am, and it's not what I want to be. Uh, so I think, in a case like that, relationship is a very big part of that.
Right. I think, yeah, cultural fit is really important and that the candidate should be evaluating that as well. Right.
Exactly. They should be evaluating whether they will fit into that organization or not. It's surprising sometimes that people don't think about when they're interviewing for a position, they're not thinking about, am I going to fit in this organization? Uh, or, and how am I going to fit into this organization? And is this the type of organization that I want to work in? So, yeah,
Right.
it's
Right.
got to be that two-way street. They should be looking at cultural fit as well as I'm looking at cultural fit. And if we both agree that it is a fit, great. We'll work well together. We'll most likely have no problem forming a relationship between the two of us. Uh, but if either one of the two don't think it's a cultural fit, let's not go forward with this.
Right. I think
Yeah.
for happiness all around and longevity at a place, right? Finding a place you can grow.
Exactly, exactly. I mean, there have been a couple of positions, and I have a friend of mine who constantly talks about this one position that I turned down. Uh, and it really was, it's like, yeah, it's just not the right job for me. It's not the right, it's not the right environment. It's not what I want to be doing. Yeah, they're offering me a great salary, uh, but I'm not going to be happy there. And life's too short to not be happy when especially at work, because you spend so much time at work.
That is true.
Yeah.
Um, do you have certain questions that you ask or like situations? Like, how are you able to determine if the person's going to fit into the culture?
It's just a conversation that we're having. I tend to ask them to walk me through their resume from beginning to end. And I find that it's a great way to find out whether you do have the technical chops to do it. Uh, because you can ask them questions about the technology in here. But the other thing I look for is, why did you leave that job? What was it about that job that made you say, I don't want this? Or the job that you went to, what was it about that job that made you say, that's what I want? You know, is it was it what you were was it the work that you were going to be doing? Was it the experience you were going to be gaining? I'm kind of looking at, I don't want, I'm not looking for I was just job hopping because it gave me, a bigger salary. I want to see that there was a thought process behind changing from going from one position to another, that there's growth in there, that you're learn something or you're hoping to learn something. Um, and then I always throw the question at the end, tell me what you do with your spare time. Because I just want to, if you spend all of your time just focused on your work, your mind tends to get a little cluttered and you're not thinking straight. So I want to know, what do you do to get away from work, to clear your mind, so that when you come in, the next time you come in, you've got a fresh mind that can now start looking at problems, issues, situations freshly, with a fresh mind.
Right.
Yep.
One of the questions that I like and think is revealing is to find out if someone's turned down any other offers, right? What are the things didn't they like? It's similar in the vein, right, to
Correct.
why
It's
they
like,
left.
right. And why did you leave? Why did you turn down that offer? And sometimes it's, look, people, we're in IT. We get laid off. Not
Right.
every move we've made is of our own decision. And I get that. I understand that. But it's, did you take that other job? And in some cases, it's a very, very viable reason you took that job, because you needed to pay the bills. But it's why did you take that job? Did you take that job because you're hoping to learn something new? Uh, you're hoping to get a promotion where you can have a little bit more influence or something along those lines. It brought you closer to what it is that you want to do.
Right. Now, you mentioned to me recently that you've been hiring more consultants instead of
Yes.
full-time employees. So how does that differ in the interview process?
I think interviewing with a consultant, you're not looking at cultural fit as important, because you're bringing someone on for a set amount of time, uh, you know, 6 months, a year, and with a very specific thing to do. So you need to know that they have they understand that particular technology that they're going to be dealing with inside and out. Um, you don't have time for them to teach. If I hire somebody as an employee, I can them not having all the technical chops necessarily is okay, because you can teach that. And the person's going to hopefully be here for a while, and you can help develop them and teach them the technology that they don't need. With a consultant, they need to have the technology up front. I don't have the time to teach them. Uh, so I spend more time looking at that and less time at the cultural fit, because I can deal with the cultural fit issues for a set amount of time. I cannot deal with the uh, technical issues or lack of technical knowledge for that set amount of time.
Do you have any advice for like a consultant that comes on board, that what would have them start on the right foot?
Understand that what you're going to be doing completely. Make sure you really understand what is required of the position and of the project. Make sure you know the technology that's being employed in the project. I've experienced a couple of cases where the consultant doesn't know the technology, uh, but yet he's expected to be the technologist in the on the project, and that's a detriment, because the project doesn't go as easily as you want it to do. It doesn't get input as quickly as you want it to. So you have to understand what your role in the project is going to be, and really make sure that you can execute on that role. very quick, easily and quickly from the beginning.
And I guess regarding the communication that you expect, do you expect that they'll be coming to you on a regular basis, giving you updates, or what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I do expect them to be coming to me, and I do that with all my employees anyway. I tend to have, depending on the role, either weekly or bi-weekly meetings, so that we can understand exactly what's going on, what are the issues that you're running into, where do we sit on the projects, uh, and so, and I, with a consultant, I would expect that too. And with a consultant, I would expect weekly. I tend to like, from a consultant, well, actually, even from my more direct reports, uh, give me a quick memo so I could read it beforehand. So that this way, when we sit down and have that one-on-one, we can dive into what the issues are. Instead of, and I've got a time to understand what the issue is and we can dive in, as opposed to just starting to talk about what the issue is right then and there. And then it also leaves us time to just cement the relationship, and talk about how everything else is going on in life. Is it the work becoming overwhelming? Am I putting too much on you? Do we need to take some stuff off your plate because some of these projects are just becoming too big of a project for you to handle with everything else that you're doing? How's things going in your life in general, and that
Right.
type of stuff also. So it gives us more time to get into that stuff, instead of just dealing with the individual projects and what the issues are that are running into.
Right. Now that's fantastic. And you're seeming like a very reflective person. And I was wondering, what advice would you give your younger self?
I would probably give my younger self the same advice I gave my son. It's get involved, learn something new every day, whether it's something related to work, whether it's something related about yourself. Try to find something to learn in every day and to grow from that, from what you've learned. How can you make the situation at work better, make the project go better, make yourself a better person and a better leader? Uh, and leadership isn't necessarily a title that you have. Uh, in a lot of cases, it really is just your demeanor at work, and are you willing to help people, and how do you help people? Uh, that will make people think of you as a leader.
That is a great point. Pasquale, I really enjoyed our conversation today. Thank you so much for making the time.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for listening to Tech Talent Today, brought to you by Clearmont Technologies IT Staffing and Search. You can find out more at clearmonttech.com. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe and share. See you next time.